But fellas, let's talk about baby, face, or heel. Now, for those who may not know what babyface heel means in wrestling terminology, babyface means good guy hero, heel means bad guy villain. So I came up with this topic a couple of weeks ago. I picked out three athletes or celebrities, and myself, Champ, and BRF are going to determine whether they are a babyface or a heel. Now, the first one, Steph Curry. I think it's pretty unanimous babyface because kids love him. He's revolutionized the game of basketball with the 3-point shot. A lot of guys nowadays, whether if you're in the park, YMCA, LA Fitness, you want to shoot the three because of Steph Curry. He's prioritized the 3-point shooting. And plus, with his ball handling skills, it's not often you have a shooter like a Steph with the ball handling skills as well, because we've seen a lot of great shooters. Reggie Miller, Klay Thompson, great catch off the shoot. Steph can shoot from a multitude of ways, on and off the dribble, catch and shoot, screens, whatever the case may be. He can create his own shot. Plus, great guy off the court, family man. He established the culture. I was actually there at that 2009 NBA draft when he was selected with the 7th overall pick. Blake Griffin, number 1, James Harden, 3rd overall. Um, Great ambassador to basketball, great ambassador to sports in general. So, no doubt, no brainer about it. Babyface. Some people could make the argument heel because of the fact that they were the Fantastic Four when they acquired KD, and people were just tired of seeing the Warriors' dominance. But babyface was Steph Curry because no off the court issues, his transcendent play, how a lot of kids emulate Steph Curry's game. Babyface.
I think the board is unanimous, Your Honor. And even when they made the super team, even when they had the super team, more of that hate was directed towards KD than Steph Curry.
True, but they did went to the Hamptons and try to meet with KD, even though it was KD's choice, though.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that hate was more towards KD than Steph Curry. Yeah, because the thing is, you won without him. So I think a lot of that hate did you turn right back around and win. So it's just like, yeah, you had that minor heel turn in those KD years, which I think when the era of the super team, which I believe is over at this point, which the era of the super team, it seems like two guys went through that little quote unquote heel turn. Feel like LeBron went through it first when he went to Miami, and then was Steph and the Warriors. They went through that little minor heel turn when when KD came there. But for the most part, and like I said, even when KD came there, it was more. You didn't hear people talk about how weak Steph Curry was. You didn't hear people talk about how weak Draymond or none of those guys were. Everybody was kind of jumping on KD, which at the end of the day, although people might criticize him, my humble opinion, yeah, I mean he was right. You know, I wasn't going to win anything in OKC, and guess what? There was a lot of erratic play by Russell Westbrook. I mean, and they give the thing is they give KD a lot of help, but he played well in those games, that conference finals the um against the Warriors. He played pretty well. I don't think he was comfortable playing with Billy Donovan. I don't think he was comfortable in that environment anymore. And he wanted to win the championship. So guess what? He went to win a championship. I mean, it's kind of like how I'm just being real. It's kind of like how it's no different than the job that we have. Nobody wants to have a job where you always the smartest guy in the room. We're always looking at you all the time. Hey, what are you gonna do? So when you need that boost, you go around guys who just as smart as not smarter than you are. So it's comparable to that. Now, granted, a lot of controversy is gonna go from that. But guess what? I mean, he was right. He won 2 championships. OKC hasn't done anything since. James Harden hasn't won anything, although he's been on separate teams. Russell Westbrook hasn't won anything, although he's played with some of the greatest players of all time. And he tried to carry OKC along with Paul George and Carmelo and Steven Adams. Guess what? Neither one of those guys he played with won championship. He's the only one. So at the end of the day, people might get on to KD, but was he right? You bet he was.
ERF, is there anything you want to add before I bring in the next athlete?
Um, yeah. Well, because I feel like Steph Curry. Yeah, like I mean, I definitely think the board is unanimous. I think you got to go Babyface. I think Steph Curry is one of the. If I had a Mount Rushmore as far as like influential players in the National Basketball Association, whether it be your play or like just as your play or like off the court as far as like appearance and stuff like that. If I had a Mount Rushmore of influential players, maybe a hot take, might be controversial. I think Steph Curry is on the Mount Rushmore as far as players who have influenced the game the most, whether it be through their play or other reasons. I look at Mike, I look at Kobe, I look at Steph, I look at Allen Iverson. I think that's the Mount Rush. I think that's the Mount Rushmore as far as influential players in the National Basketball Association, whether it be through your play or other things. Like with AI, it wasn't necessarily the play. It wasn't necessarily his play of Allen Iverson, even though I do think he's one of the greatest shooting guards of all time. It was that era of just like the dress and the dress code. That hip hop kind of that really dominated era of hip hop where
Right.
he the arm sleeves and the headbands and the tattoos and all that, and just how it just carried through the rest of the league, and how the players just became more comfortable with the expression as far as just being themselves. And that's why I have AI in my Mount Rushmore as far as like players that influence the game the most. And I think Steph is in that Mount Rushmore just because I think from a schematic standpoint and from a skill level standpoint, him and his ability to shoot the three has just changed the game in so many ways. Unlike really what I would say, the only thing maybe comparison to that as far as just like an in like just a single individual skill set. Maybe I haven't seen nothing like this from with an individual skill set. Maybe when Vince Carter came in the league with the Duncan, and then you just saw all these players coming out of high school, like might not have had the greatest skill set in the world, but they saw Vince Carter dunk, and they could jump through the roof, and they could dunk on anybody. So, we saw a lot of that, like in the early mid 2000s, just guys coming in the league not having the greatest skill set, but one thing they could definitely do was they were athletic and they could jump and they could dunk. So with Steph and his ability to shoot three, you're
He's
seeing like
relatable.
exactly he's very relatable because like you playing pickup games with your boys. Ain't nobody trying to drive the ball all that much, man. Everybody trying to everybody trying to shoot from behind the 3-point arc because they see someone like Steph Curry do it. He's not the prototypical build that you see. He's not the prototypical two or the three or something like that. The wing that could shoot and dunk and do all that stuff. He's just he's 6'3", 6'4", not even 200 pounds, but he's the greatest shooter in the history of the sport. And what he's done with the 3-point shot has just been it's been amazing, and might be something that we might not see for anytime soon. So I think for me it's just his influence, his relatability, just not being the not having the not being the big body that can do all these athletic things. Like he's got to use more his IQ. He's got to use his just his skill set is just, even at his size, his skill set so rare, and being able to shoot the ball like he does, and he brought he brought the relatability factor. He brought the likability factor. Even with those KD super teams, he brought the likability because it's like even when you wanted to root against the Golden State Warriors, you see Steph Curry and you saw him shoot, and you just like, how can I hate this man? I can't hate this man, especially when shooting the way he's been able to shoot and still able to shoot. Like, did y'all see that highlight a few nights ago? The catch fadeaway three that he
Yeah.
just the catch fadeaway three that he just dropped through the bottom of the net. It's like at some point when you're trying to guard him, it's just like, man, you just bow down and take it. you bow down and take it with somebody like Steph Curry. Like, you can do all you can with him. All he gonna throw something up. He's gonna go in, and you just bow down. You take your L, and you just keep pushing. So yeah, I think it's the likability and the relatability. Even with some of the greatest teams that he's been on, it's just hard to root against somebody like that. So yeah, the board is definitely unanimous.
All right, next athlete, Anthony Edwards. BRF, you can go first.
You know what? I think Anthony Edwards is a babyface too. I think he's a babyface too. And he's like, I feel like he's in that mode of like, you know, for me he's like early '03, '04 Cena. Saying what's on your mind, not being scared to express yourself on a mic or in an interview or something like that. But yet, when you go out and it's time to perform, you go out and you back it up and you perform. So for me, he's like a baby face. He's in that Doctor of Thugonomics. He's in that John Cena mold. He's in that Cena mold for me. I mean, it's hard. A guy like him, he's funny. Like I said, he'll say what's on his mind, but he's funny. He's not ashamed. He's not ashamed to speak his mind. And now I'll say this though: does he have things about his life off the court that might not be the greatest? Yeah, he does. We'll just say, for lack of a better term, we'll just say kids for this argument. That's all we gonna say. But even with that though, like Anthony Edwards brings a flair to the game that's needed, that's desperately needed, because he doesn't run from anything. He doesn't run from anybody. It's like he kind of fits that mold. Giannis kind of fits that mold. It's like almost like, I don't really want to join a super team. I don't want to make a super team. I want to beat all y'all. I don't want to join none of y'all. I want to beat all y'all. Kind of like that old '80s, '90s mentality with like the Magics and the Birds, and then Mike and Reggie and Patrick Ewing and all those guys back then. They weren't trying to form no super team. They were trying to they wanted to be the best. They weren't trying to make no super team. They wanted to beat the best. They weren't trying to make a super team. And it's crazy when you hear stories back then of this player could have joined this, X player could have joined Y player or stuff, and stuff like that. It's crazy when you hear about stories like that. I think Anthony Edwards for me is a baby face. Yeah, like he's got a lot of relatability in him too, just from the standpoint of like, that freedom of expression and just saying what's on your mind and not being scared to get it out there. But then also when you get on the court, being as good as he is as a player. So and I feel like it's hard to root against somebody like Anthony Edwards as well. So I'm gonna go babyface with Anthony Edwards. But like I said, he's in that Doctor of Thugonomics, Cena mold kind of babyface.
Champ.
He's a tweener.
That means he's in between.
He's in between. He's a tweener. Because he's one of those guys that depends on who you ask. Depends on who you ask. If you are paying attention to his basketball ability, how likable he is on the court, how he has those old school values as far as, playing both sides of the court, being a two-way player. If you're paying attention to basketball and basketball alone, you love it. You love that flair. So in that aspect, he's a heel. He's a babyface, excuse me. But if you one of these drama filled characters that love paying attention to the drama more so than sports and are looking for something to talk about each and every day, then you will call him a heel. Because as you know, we're not just necessarily in the sports business, we're in the story business. And unfortunately, stories can overpower your ability on the court. And we've seen it not only with players from the present, we've seen it from the past. You know, you saw with certain players who were all-time greats. Although they were all-time greats on the court, they had had the posture that will lift up a franchise. They had everything that you could want in a player. But that stuff that came out off the court about them, that's what kind of tainted them at a certain point. So it would really depend on who you ask. If you ask a basketball savant like we are, heck yeah, I'm gonna say he's a babyface, because guess what? Everything that personified in 80s and 90s basketball, or even the early 2000s with the Lakers versus the Spurs, he personifies that. Being a two-way player, wanting to win, being passionate, having these little outbursts every now and then. But in this era, and I call this era the social media era for a reason, because people are looking at everything. They're not just looking at your ability on the basketball court. They're looking at everything. The reason why everybody, can relate to LeBron, especially, guys our age, BRF, people can say, hey, although you may not like LeBron as a basketball player, you might not be able to say that he is better than Jordan, but at the same time, one of the best family men you ever want to see, always with his family. Same thing with Steph Curry. And although that should not be the story, unfortunately, things that are off the court do kind of take precedent over things that happen on the court. So if you ask me, babyface, but if you ask someone who loves the drama behind it, they will say heel. So I have to put him as a tweener.
Not to mention, Chad.
He put that well. I like that explanation. He champ knocked that out the park. He did good on that.
Absolutely. Not to mention, Chad, there was the one example with the mom saying, no, you're not buying them Anthony Edwards sneakers. You're going to buy these Ja Morant sneakers because Ja Morant takes care of his. Hey, look, that's what the mom said.
I was trying to avoid the hell out of that. That's how come I kept dancing around. I kept dancing around the ice skate rink trying not to get wet. So I've been dancing around it. So.
Somebody had to dive in.
Yeah, he had. I mean, that's why PSP is PSP. I try to dance around certain stuff and then PSP. I think the best people about that, I think Hit the Flash are the best two guys for that, because I try to dance around to be politically correct. Yeah. But
that's one of those where it's like you standing on the top of the ice pond. Champ's the one he gonna beat around the edges of the ice pond, make sure nobody fall in it. PSP don't give a damn. He gonna hit straight in the middle.
Listen, I don't give a damn what type of criticism I get. People still get on me for the NASA hat and everything else, but hey, I'm gonna call it like I said. Yeah. But as it pertains to Anthony Edwards, I can't say it any better than Champ. As a basketball player, you love it because he plays with enough passion, fire, and energy. And then off the court, you can't stand the dude. I mean, if you are like a typical family man, if you're a typical father, I mean, you probably view him probably the same way you would view Zion. And Zion, we ain't getting there. Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard when you be distracted with all them women down there. Not to mention New Orleans. So,
Oh man.
But when you look at Anthony Edwards, he's a tweener. Basketball you love because he plays with passion, energy. He improves his play. He's getting better. Talks trash, and then off the court, you just can't stand him. If you are the traditional type of husband or father or any type of woman, that's just my opinion. And last one, Deion Sanders, prime.
Whoo, yeah.
I hate to say
I'm
it.
still in.
Go ahead,
I'm
BR.
still in champ. I'm still in champ thunder on this one. He's a tweener too. I'm still in champ thunder on that. Prime time peak Deion Sanders is a tweener. Yeah. I mean, there's no getting around that. He's a tweener too. He's the exact. I feel like he's the exact same way because it falls on whichever side of the fence you're on. Like
If you're Jason
like when he
Whitlock, Deion Sanders makes. Considering all the things that Jason Whitlock has said, not to mention even bringing Brett Favre on his show, given what he was accused of, Deion Sanders looks a hell of a lot better.
Exactly. But I think it's just like it's where you fall as far as like your feelings towards him because religious man, family man, he strives to be the best he can be as far as his values or whatnot, and then not the and then it's like when you go back to his playing days when you saw him on the field, it's one of those where it's like if he was on your team, you loved him because you knew he was going to back up everything at his peak. He was going to back up every single piece of talk that came out of his mouth because you knew he was going to back it up. But at the same time, if you were playing against him, you couldn't stand him because he's like, man, why I got to hit his man run his mouth for? And then when he get out there on Sunday and he shuts down your best receiver, you hate him because you know why he run his mouth like he did on a weekly basis because you knew when he came into that game, he was okay. Like two things, he was going to take away half of the field. And then if he plays special teams, don't kick the ball, don't punt the ball his way. You punt it to him, he's going to take it to the house on you. Don't punt it to him. I mean, Deion was just that generational of a football player at his peak. And then you look at him now, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of like where you fall on whichever side of the fence. Like either you support him because of what he stands for as a man and his religious beliefs and all of that and what he tries to do, but then he's still but he's deep. But I mean, come on, man, he's Deion Sanders.
He's
he's
real
he's
as
still
it gets.
he's as real as it's gonna get, and he's still one of the more cockier, cockier, kind of he's going to express himself. He's going to say what on his mind. He's going to express himself. But he has that type of belief in himself. He always has, and he always will, no matter what he does. And you look at the strides that he's made already in 2 years of being the head coach at the University of Colorado, getting his team to like 8-9 wins this past season, even though they didn't make the college football playoff, even though they didn't get to the Big 12 title game. It's the fact that he's made those strides with the Colorado Buffaloes, and Shadur Sanders leaves. He gets Julian Lewis to go play quarterback. Come on, bro. Like that's coaching. That's recruiting. That's what you do. But I just think as a tweener, because like I said, he's one of those that it just depends on where you fall with him. Like you're either gonna love Deion or you're not gonna stand Deion because of who he is for the exact same reasons as far as who he is as a man, as a coach, as a sports figure, all that. So I'm gonna steal a little thunder from Champ. I think Deion Sanders falls in that tweener category too, because you're either gonna like the man or you're not gonna like the man. There's no gray in it. There's no gray area with Deion. It's black or white. You either like him or you don't. So I think he kind of falls in that tweener perspective as well. I think I would consider Deion Sanders a tweener as well. Because me personally, Deion Sanders is one of my favorite people on earth. I mean, let's just keep it a buck. But I'm saying everybody doesn't have that same kind of feeling towards Deion. So I mean, I'm gonna classify him in that kind of tweener role too. It's like you either like him or you don't.
I was gonna say heel because how he doesn't give a damn what people have to say about him negatively. I mean, because there are people in the media, Jason Whitlock, Paul Feinbaum, who have their criticisms of Dion, and particularly his son Shador Sanders, because now you're hearing draft reports about Shador Sanders being arrogant. And I think that a lot of that people will say, well, that's easy to say because of his father. But BRF, you convinced me, tweener, because of his religious faith. And on a serious note, and Champ, you know this as well as you, BRF. Remember how he confronted Skip Bayless, especially when Skip Bayless, what he said about Troy Aikman back
Yeah,
then?
and he put him out on and he put him on Front Street about it. He called him out for it. That's the Dion, like that's the family man. That's the good teammate. That's the guy you go to war with on a football field who's got your back. So yeah.
And listen, look, I don't curse on my show, but fuck it, I'm gonna curse. You have to be a certain individual, like a Jason Whitlock, to say all the nonsense, the rhetoric, like he does. I mean, of all people on your show, you bring in Brett Favre, who was accused of stealing welfare funds in the poor state of Mississippi. And speaking of Mississippi, he was there during that time when Mississippi had that water situation. He donated half of his salary from Jackson State to help out the kids. Think of what he did, not only getting his son, Shador Sanders, but also getting Travis Hunter, a 5-star recruit, to come play at Jackson State and to help him go to Colorado. Your son and Travis Hunter, they're going to be top draft picks. Travis Hunter won the Heisman. Despite all the controversy regarding him and his girlfriend, Prime is still going to be there. But I say tweener, because if you are the media, from the media standpoint, you look at him as a heel. Because when you press him, when you ask him questions, and when he gives statements like that, you can't stand him. You look at him as a heel. Plus, flamboyant, the style, the glasses, the swag. But hey, that's who Prime is. Prime isn't going to change. And that's the thing I like about him. And if necessary, he's going to call you out. He's going to call you out and he's going to confront you. Like I mentioned, what he did to Skip Bayless. I'm glad that Prime actually did that to Skip Bayless, because Champ, you even mentioned it could have almost cost Troy Aikman, dare I say, his career.
Yes, because it's not it. Things like that were not as accepted as they are now.
Exactly.
And
Right.
what? Look, if you don't know what we're talking about, go look at the interview where Deion Sanders confronts Skip Bayless about what he said about Troy Aikman in his book back then. I think it was back in 1995.
I think that time frame's about right. Yeah.
Yes. So that was not as accepted back then as it was now. Everybody, I'm old enough to remember certain shows that came on VH1 past 10 o'clock. You know, parents had a rage about it. So you know what show I'm talking about. So that was not as popular back then. So that was good on Dion. But as far as Dion, I gotta say he's a heel. Look, y'all remember back when Roman Reigns first became a babyface?
Yeah, people didn't like him.
And the thing is, you had every reason to like him. He had the mic skills, the charisma, he had everything. Same thing with Dion. He has family values. He's been coaching his boys since they were kids. People talk about LeBron opening up a charter school. Dion was doing that way back when. When you're talking about going to an HBCU and putting it back on the map, Jackson State had not had NFL scouts or college game day there since Walter Payton and Edward Brazile was there, and they got drafted in the 70s. HBCUs on ESPN was a flat out afterthought.
Unprecedented.
Unprecedented. Not to mention, he got it so where they had planes, he got it so where they had clothes, he got it so where they had hotel fare and everything. Then when he left, he not only received backlash from the media, but also within his own community. So the thing is, the reason why I classify Deion as a heel is because he's everything that you look for as far as charity is concerned, as far as taking care of your family is concerned, putting your sons and putting people that you love in position, damn near adopting Travis Hunter. He's practically Deion's other son. Doing things like stepping up in the media as far as confronting Skip Bayless about stuff. I mean, if you go back and look at America's Game, 1994 San Francisco 49ers, I remember you remember Merton Hanks. He said
Yes.
Deion on the field is flamboyant, he's borderline brash and everything. But off that field, he's like a guy who you can sit back on the porch and sip lemonade with and talk about life. Merton Hanks said that. Michael Irvin said he was a great teammate. And although he was very, very flamboyant when he was on the Dallas Cowboys and they was getting in trouble left and right with the law, guess what two people were never in trouble? I will say three. Deion, Troy Aikman, and Emmitt Smith. They were never in trouble. Deion never got in trouble with the law. He nearly ever got in trouble with the law. So when you think about all of the great things that he did for the HBCUs, the fact that he was a hell of a teammate, the fact that he was a hell of a father, he helped his boys get to where they need to be. Not to mention, when they left, made it a point to make sure that he stayed in order to make sure to say, hey, this is not going to be just a prop job. This is going to be my full job. Helping put the HBCU back on the map in form of Jackson State, which nobody has been drafted from there or been around that community as far as ESPN and the major sports networks since Walter Payton. And the thing is, we're seeing a lot of trends because of Deion. A lot of HBCUs are, guess what, going to get former NFL players in order to coach.
Eddie George, Michael Vick now, Deshaun Jackson.
Yes. And before that, Eric Metcalf, he's the coach up here in at Morehouse.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot of coaches. He set trends, so a lot of other HBCUs are looking for the prime effect. And like I said, what he did for the HBCU when he was there, guess what? Got them planes, partnered with J.C. Penney in order to get these guys suits, ties, made sure these guys not only respect the game, but respect authority. Made sure that these young men had $1,000 accounts open with the Bank of Colorado in order to make sure that they started their children's trust fund. So, with that being said, I label him as a heel because although he did all of those great things, every last one of those great things, everybody, even within his own community, because we are not going to sit here and take the easy way out and say it's just the media versus Deion. Even within his own community, when he left Jackson State, people was trying to point fingers at it. You shouldn't have used the HBCU. Guess what? There was a lot of controversy going on within that HBCU and within its athletic program that Deion was trying to address, but they didn't want to. So I label him as a heel because guess what? Although he did everything the right way, straight and narrow, rarely got in trouble, great teammate, great family man, don't see him all in the streets like that. Although he did everything right, much like Roman Reigns when he first became the champion, you're looking for a reason to hate him. You're looking for it. And the minute you find one thing, the minute it's just like, the minute he do so much as wiggle wrong, that's why I don't like it. So that's the reason why I label him heel. Because guess what? You could do everything. Remember, Kurt Angle was the same way. You know? I'm
Olympic
your
gold medals.
hero. You know, I'm the hero. I'm here for all of you. It's true. Guess what? It's just like that, but guess what? Ah, this guy's corny. Guess what? You're just looking for reasons to hate him. Yet you have no reason to. If somebody sat down and said, if you legitimately asked a person, what don't you like about Deion Sanders? The first thing they would talk about, well, I don't like it because he's brash. Okay, outside of that, what athlete that you know is not brash? You're just looking for a reason to hate it. Plus,
I,
look at all of the players look at all of the former players with no coaching experience that he's given jobs to.
exactly. Now Marshall Falk is now the running backs coach in Colorado. He also got Warren Sapp, Hall of Famer Warren Sapp, to help out. But champ, I think he is a tweener because Prime is liked. He may not be liked by the media, and he may not be liked in some of the community because people felt like when he left Jackson State, people went as far calling him sellout.
Yeah.
And
I remember that too. I remember that too. I know I made at least one video or so trying to calling those people out, trying to call them a sellout. I remember all that.
But wait a minute, why are you knocking him for leaving for a better opportunity? I mean, if a job, champ, look, you will always be a part of the Sports PSP pod, but if someone offered you a position for a better job, then of course you'd be a damn fool to stay with me, not take that position. You got to capitalize it. Take that position, gives you a bigger platform, more money, and everything else. But and champ, you can also make the argument for heel because, to be honest with you, when Prom left Jackson State, even CNN was covering it. They even had Bomani Jones on the show with Don Lemon, and I'm like, wait a minute. I get it. Prom left Jackson State, and it's a sad day for HBCUs, and it's sad for Mississippi. But y'all talking about that more than you talk about the Brett Favre situation. Wait a minute. Why is it not the same? Why are you not holding Brett Favre to that same standard as well? Brett Favre is accused of stealing welfare funds in Mississippi, folks. For those who may not know, Brett Favre was accused of stealing welfare funds in the poorest state in the United States of America, in Mississippi. And there wasn't as much coverage on that. But when he left Jackson State, am I lying or exaggerating, champ? There was a lot more coverage on that.
Yes, exactly. The thing was, and the thing is, even in the last game, because remember, by that time the contract was already done. I never forget when Jackson State played that last game in the championship. I'll never forget what the announcer said. Because remember, Deion had made a statement after he got into it with one of the coaches. And his saying when he got on, College Game Day is, "Who is Swag, baby?" I remember that. And I never forget one of the MCs from one of the HBCUs that he was playing against after Deion left and they made the Celebration Bowl. I never forget one of the announcers said, "Deion ain't here right now. See, I told you he wasn't swag." So you even get backlash in your own community, even though you had to leave because there were so many controversies about it. Hell, the same thing. What's so funny is history repeated itself with Eddie George because people were talking about, because, he's no longer the coach at Tennessee State. He's moving on to Bowling Green. So people was talking about, well, why would you use the HBCU as a stepping board? He has no choice but to leave. Right now, given the state of certain economical things, Tennessee State is running out of money. They can't pay him. They can't pay some of the school off. It's in danger of closing. So you want me to stay at a school that's in danger of closing when I could go somewhere and get an opportunity? They even gave Eddie George the same backlash, not understanding that Tennessee State is in danger of closing. So that's the thing. He got backlash in his own community after everything he did for Jackson State for seeking a better opportunity. And like I said, the same thing just happened to Eddie George. Don't believe that. Look at the video that I just made on TikTok announcing that he went to Bowling Green. You'll see the comment. Why would you use the HBCU in order to do that? And the thing is, I literally said in the video that Tennessee State is in danger of closing forever. And you still want him to stay there? Why? He's in danger of losing the very football program that he's there to coach.
Not to mention jeopardizing his bottom line. So therefore, you have no other choice but to leave. But problem is, champ, people just don't see that. And even for our own community, champ, our own community, because again, we always talk about it all the time. People there like you can't do what the white man do. But in that situation, like what are you supposed to do if you're prime? The program is about to close. And this is a football team that has offered me an opportunity to coach and allow me to have final say. Damn right, I have to take it. But I say tweener to BRF's point because of the religious things, what he does for kids, how he inspires them, how he's able to recruit, how he's able to connect with younger people. And that's the thing that people, and that's the reason why Prime, I believe he'll do a better job with the recruiting than Bill Belichick, though, because I believe Prime, obviously with age, youth, Prime can connect with a lot of different people. I mean, look, even in this last game with the SWAC, when they lost the game, when the tight end dropped the pass, Prime didn't yell, cuss at the kid.
No.
He consoled the kid.
Yeah.
He was, and Prime, he will do everything he can to get people in the best position possible. People will just say heel because again, he's flamboyant, he's brash, he's cocky, he's arrogant, he talks too much style, too much personality. Heck, he has his own show with Roski Diaz, former host of 106 in Park. He's doing all these things, not focusing enough on football. But have we seen other coaches who've done that before? Let's not act as if Prime is not the only one, but because you just don't like his personality or his style, bravado, whatever the case may be. And look with Shador Sanders. I mean, you even made the argument, champ. I give you credit for doing the video on this. I hope to see Shador Sanders tanking the draft because you hope there's going to be some team out there that's going to be desperate enough, who has a good enough team to draft him and put him in the best position possible. But I say tweener, champ, because certain people in the media, and when I mean certain people like a Jason Whitlock, you have to look at him and you really asking yourself, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? Why are you hating on somebody? And it seems to me, anytime whenever Whitlock criticizes Prime, he seems desperate. I mean, look, I won't go any further what he said about Joy Taylor. That's a different story. but Jason Whitlock.
On that part about Joe Taylor, was he live, man? That skin do look good, though, man. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. That peanut butter skin do look good. You weren't lying about that part, man. I get Jason a little peanut butter skin do look good.
For all people to bring in Brett Favre on his show. All people to bring in Brett Favre on his show. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You have the nerve, the audacity to judge a man who believes in his faith, who does and says all the right things. Meanwhile, people like you, Jason Whitlock, who can't even concentrate on skipping your last meal, you have the nerve, the audacity to criticize him and bring in Favre? Not to mention all the preposterous things you said about other athletes, which I won't get any further. Just go and do the research. And plus, with Skip Bayless, I had no problem with what he did to Skip Bayless by confronting him. Because, again, champ, that almost could have cost Troy Aikman his career.
Mm-hmm.
Troy Aikman could have been ostracized from the NFL. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, teammates like Prime prevented him from that. But I say tweener because, again, there are going to be people who like him. I mean, he's able to get celebrities. He's able to entertain. I mean, you get
Mhm.
The Rock, you get celebrities to come to college game day to watch Colorado. Think about what Colorado was before Prime. They won one game, and they were able. And look, past 2 years, they were able to make. They were able to be successful. At one point, champ, weren't they in the discussion for the playoffs?
Yes, they was. I mean, unfortunately, they lost their last few games, but they lost the game that was critical for them. BYU was just a little bit too much for him, but yeah, he was being mentioned in the playoffs and a lot of things. I mean, plus he made it to a bowl game. It started off bad, but they ended up going 9-3, 9-4 on the year. And guess what? Look, especially when you think about coaches who, you know, like like Coach Gundy, who hasn't done anything in a while, for you to be that close to winning a championship, winning the Big Ten within only your second year, for your program only within your second year to have a Heisman, I mean, who more than likely is going to have not one, but maybe two first round, maybe not one, but two, or maybe three first round pick. Because don't forget about Jimmy Horn. Jimmy Horn is one hell of a wide receiver.
Yes.
So for you to do that within your first 2 years, not to mention bring in one of the top recruits as far as offensive line is concerned, because he got the number one offensive line in the state in the nation to come play for Colorado. So for you to go from 4-6, well 4-8 to 9-3 within your first two seasons, then not only that, you wanted the HBCU level as well. You was a winner there. You may not have won the national championship there, but you was a winner there. You got them there. You put them on the map. You put them on the map. For you
You
to
know
do
what?
all,
You
go
know what
ahead.
Deion Sanders reminds me of, champ, from a wrestler standpoint, and I've used The Rock. He kind of reminds me in some ways of like Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, the
Shawn
second
Michaels,
one.
yes, the second, not the first one, the second one,
Yeah,
second run, because Shawn Michaels, even in the second run, still, even though religious faith, but he still maintained that aura, the sexy boy, the boy toy, all that stuff. That's Prime to me. He would be like the second run of Shawn Michaels.
yeah,
And I think for me, I think champ Prime, look, you make a great argument for the heel part, but tweener, because I do think Prime does have charisma, style, personality. There are people that do like him. There are people that do respect and admire what he does. Now there are some people who feel like I- some people may not like him because again, he is outspoken. He's a very polarizing guy. He is polarizing. But look, uh, fine. I'll agree with you with Jason Whitlock with the Joy Taylor, the big rag peanut butter skin. But other than that, you ain't gonna convince me to fucking support Jason Whitlock in any way,
we love
shape.
you, Joy. We love you.
But
Ah.
let's move on. Let's move on.